All right, so last module we finished up with The Missing Piece Meets the Big O. That's such a great book, isn't it? And the book is about it's about this missing piece that's looking for someone to complete it. But then kind of in the end, it finds out that the way to truly roll is to make yourself a complete person. So I'm sure many of you have heard the statement, you can't love someone else until you love yourself. And I always wondered, like, what does that mean? What does that mean if you can't love yourself, until you love somebody, you can't love somebody else until you love yourself. And so I thought that so we talked about classical conditioning principles because this class is called the psychology of sexuality. So we're kind of looking at how different psychology principles play into relationships and sexuality. So let's look at this very common psychological principle called self-fulfilling prophecy and talk about how it relates to love and attraction and relationships. So the self-fulfilling prophecy is this, like if you believe that you're not important, so if you don't love yourself, like, oh, I have all these flaws or something, then your perception is, I don't need to be treated special. And then your expectation is, I will not be treated special. And then your behavior is, I rarely make my wants known, or I settle for less, or I put up with things that don't please me. And the result is others don't treat me special. I see this all the time, is you've got this person that's absolutely beautiful, no flaws whatsoever, and then they get treated poorly. And then you see other people that you might not think are attractive at all, but they make their demands known and they get treated the way they get treated very nicely. I don't know what you guys think about this. Do you think that many times kind of we get what we put up with? It's something to think about. So there's this slide here. Let me just go up here to this one here. It says, why the bad guys and girls win. Now, I don't really think that the bad guys and girls win, so that's kind of not a good way of putting it here. It's more why the guys and girls that don't put up with stuff, they usually win. So we've got this thing called cognitive dissonance. So those of you that say, you know what, this is what I'm going to put up with, and then you say, nope, I'm not going to put up with that, then people kind of react to you that way. They like, oh, when you make your boundaries firm, people usually adjust to them. And let's see why that is we've got a few things going on here. Let's look at this, okay? So the first one is cognitive dissonance. So let me ask you this question. So we've divided the class in half. And this side of the room over here let's just go over here on this side of the room. They are putting pegs in holes for an hour. So you're sticking a peg in a hole for an hour. And then the other side of the room, okay, so this side over here is putting pegs in a hole for an hour too. So you've got a line down the middle of the class here. One side over here is putting pegs in holes, then the side over here is putting pegs in holes for 1 hour. Now, what is the difference between these two groups? One side of the room is getting paid $1 and the other side of the room is getting paid $20. Now, which side of the room do you think, if I give you a survey, you've been paid, okay, you've been paid, which side of the room do you think says that they enjoyed the task more? Would it be the $20 side or the $1 side? Okay, well, I've done this long enough to know that I think most of you are going to say the $20 side. But you're wrong. And that's what I'm trying to teach you here, okay? There's a really, really, really strong principle here called cognitive dissonance. So you probably want to write this down. This is probably going to be a question on the test. Cognitive dissonance is the uncomfortable feeling that we have when our thoughts do not match our actions. The uncomfortable feeling that we have when our thoughts do not match our actions. So, look, if you get paid $20 to put pegs in holes, $20 an hour right now is not bad. Like, okay, I'll put pegs in holes for $20 an hour, no big deal. But those of you that got paid $1 to put the pegs in the holes, you have to wonder, why did you do that? And what your brain does is it experiences this uncomfortable feeling. I have no idea why I would put pegs in holes for, for an hour for $1. And so then what it does is it says, oh, I did it because I liked it. So you see how I have cult and gang behavior down here? That's how a lot of cults and gangs work, is they ask you to do a large request. Like, in order to be part of our group, there is a large request that you must do. And if you give in to someone else a large request, if you put everything into something, it's going to be hard for you to walk away because of this cognitive dissonance. Because inside, none of us want to think that we're a fool. We don't usually like to say, oh, I was just dumb. So if we go all out for someone else and we really put effort into something, our brain is going, why are you doing this? And your brain says, oh, because I really like them. So when you make your needs known and you say, hey, you didn't text back, texting me back in 3 days is not acceptable. I can't have a relationship like this. Then the person can break up with you. Okay, right? They can. But you know what? Good. The 3 days, how are you going to have a relationship with that unless there's a reason? Okay, right? So if you say, I can't deal with this, I can't build a relationship like this, then first of all, you're getting rid of somebody that's not good for you. Or they might say, oh, wow, I see this person has standards. I better meet them. And you know what? I find over and over again when I talk to students, it's so weird, and this is guys and girls, I find that what they truly want is they want someone that pushes them to be better. But they don't want somebody nagging them. Remember classical conditioning, operant conditioning? But there's like a standard that you set for people that it makes them feel better. Think about it. If you went to the gym and you had a trainer and the trainer didn't push you, like, how are you going to grow? But if you have a trainer that's like, gentle with you, but says, nah, you can do more. You can do better. You can do better. Come on, you can do better. That's what we all kind of want, is we want to be our best selves. Okay, so I don't like to make these very long, so let me just go on and try to finish this here. Okay, do you see how I have Milgram experiment down here? So maybe you guys could, maybe you remember the Milgram experiment from your Psych 1. It was the one with the machine, and basically people gave other people shock because someone else told them to, and they gave them really high levels of shock because someone told them to. It's called the Milgram experiment. It's really, really famous in psychology. And so basically what this experiment showed is it showed that people are obedient. And why am I bringing this in here with why the bad guys and girls always win? Again, I should change that. It's not the bad guys and bad girls. Maybe they're badass. How about that? Instead of saying bad, right? They're just like people with standards. And they're like, I know what I deserve and I am not putting up with anything less. And I hope all of you are like that, where you just write down like, this is what I deserve. And of course, what you expect from others, you expect from yourself. So you can't like be a hypocrite. You've got to have the same standards. But anyway, what they found with Milgram's experiment is that people are obedient. So when you set your standards, the tendency is for humans to kind of be obedient to what they want. So like in teaching, have you guys noticed that, the teachers that allow late work and allow lots of nonsense in their class, that's what they get. And then you'll have teachers that are super strict. And no, you're not going to be late. No, you're not going to do this. No, you're not. But do you notice that the students tend to rise to those standards? I'm not saying that they like it. I mean, you kind of have to have a balance. And I think that's important, that you need to have a balance. But again, I'm trying to give you something to hold on to. Okay. Again, I'm trying to make this like shorter. I know you don't like listening for long periods of time. So let me just go with this brainwashing. Okay, now the brainwashing one does go with kind of bad guys and bad girls instead of badass, okay? It's something that I want you to be aware of. Oh, I could tell you so many stories about this. Okay, but anyway, what happens is what brainwashing is in psychology is brainwashing is when you put the brain into a state of stress and then you repeat messages. And what happens is when we fight with one another, that your brain goes into a state of stress. And so your brain goes in a state of stress, and then when somebody repeatedly gives you negative messages about yourself, then you get brainwashed. How many of you have seen that? How many of you have seen like somebody with everything and they keep staying with the wrong person, and you're like, damn, what is going on with you? Why don't you leave? And another thing that plays in there is we're back to this cognitive dissonance. This is such a powerful lecture, actually. I'm so glad that you're listening to it. Have you noticed that people who spend more time with somebody, like they've been together for 5 years and the relationship is bad, they fight all the time. You know that they're not the right person for them, but what do they tell you? They say this. They're like, yeah, but we've been together for so long. Do you see the cognitive dissonance? Man, I've been with this person for 5 years. Are you going to tell me that this 5 years are nothing? What? And so I'm not going to leave because I've already spent so much time with them. And then we get in this cycle and we're like, I can't leave because that's all wasted time then. But then you're continuing to waste more. So I just want you to know before I stop this video right now is I want you to understand that when you fight with somebody, if they're saying really, really negative things to you, that can be a form of brainwashing. So when they say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words can never hurt me, that's total bullshit. You totally need to understand that you have to be very careful with what you let people say to you. The research says that if you hear something 4 times strongly, then your brain starts to make a pathway. So if you have negative people in your life, I want you to stop and say, why? Why? And let's go back to the self-fulfilling prophecy. Hey, do you deserve that? Are you a good person? Because you know what? When you ask yourself, what do I have to offer somebody? You can offer people just like love. You can just offer people like compliments and respect and paying attention to them. Remember that? Number 1 reinforcing thing for all people is attention. So each one of you has a gift that you bring to the table. Don't underestimate that. All right, I'm going to, I just end with this one. This is a quote from Katy Perry. I stood for nothing, so I fell for everything. I hope that you guys will go back to that big O. The greatest thing to make you attractive for the right person is to develop yourself to your full potential, constantly working on yourself for your self-actualization. And then also realizing that your worth and demanding it. People don't actually grow from easy and giving and this and that. People grow from you having standards and saying, hey, I want you to be your best self because I hold myself to be the best self.